Hello, my name's AJ Goldsby. I'm a life master from Pensacola, Florida, and I'm coming today to present to you a video on my game of the month for the December 2011. And this game is a very great game. It's not a perfect game. I mean, there's a lot of mistakes in this game, but still, it's a great game of fighting chess. Let's put it that way. And it's a King's Indian, and Viswanathan Anand is white. Anand Nakamura is black, and this is from the third London Chess Classic played in December of 2011. Anyway, let's go ahead and look at the game. It starts off as a King's Indian. d4, knight f6, 2c4, g6, knight c3, bishop g7, e4, d6, knight f3, castles, bishop e2, e5, white castles, knight c6, d5, knight e7. This is a very standard system. This is known as the Mar del Plata variation. The system's been around for many years. It was a favorite of a very young Bobby Fischer. He didn't play it too much as when it became a top-level GM. I'm not sure why he stopped playing it, but he liked it a lot when he was younger. And if you want to see a really classic victory by Bobby Fischer, you can find my annotations of Korchnoi Fischer from the World Blitz Championship of 1970. Basically, the pawn on d5 here in this position divides the position in half, and basically white should play on the queen side, mainly going for the c5 break and try to open as many lines on the queen side as quickly as possible, and black should play on the king side. And anyway, this is b4. Now, white has many choices here at this point. White can play knight e1, knight d2, and b4. Those are the main choices according to modern theory. The bayonet for the last 10 or 15, 20 years has pretty much become the main line today. So 9b4, though a lot of books call the bayonet variation, has become pretty much standard here. And for a while there, knight h5 was considered the best way to play today, and it seems to be more and more players are going back to the older knight e8. Also, a5 has been played in this position for black. Just pushing the pawn here, trying to immediately attack the pawn. And today, it seems like knight e8 seems to be consensus of most GMs as being the best move. Knight e8, white plays c5 right away, breaking on c5. Black plays f5, which is a good move for black. Knight d2. Now, that move takes a little bit of explaining. Very simply, is that one of the basic ideas is for white to anchor his pawn chain, the base with f3, transfer this knight to b3 or c4, and basically, this knight is needed on the queen side because, again, all of white's play is over on that side of the board. Black plays knight f6, white plays a4, and here black plays g5. That might have been less than best. It's an interesting idea, but it really doesn't work out too well. Probably the best idea there for black is simply to play a4 and continue rather with his kingside pawn avalanche. Black plays g5 here, and white plays knight c4. Now black plays h6. He feels like he has to, and this is in the main line. Black pushes the pawn to g4 and puts the pawn on h5, and you can find that line in just about any opening book on the King's Indians. I have literally about 24 books on the King's Indian. They've been written over about a 20 or 30 year span. My books go back to what I consider to be the seminal book. It's by Leonard Barden, Hartston, and Keene, and that was a King's Indian book published in the 70s, I believe. And that's, and I have also a couple other books that were published in the 70s. And I've even got some of Nunn's. Nunn recently, well, not recently, about 10 years ago, did a 2-volume work on the King's Indian, and I have all of those books. But again, black's basically idea there is to try to push his pawns forward as quickly as possible and create a pawn avalanche on the king side, whereas white's going for queen side play. And so this h6 idea is just a little bit slow, and Nakamura admitted after the game that this was an idea he came up with over drinks with a friend. And if a Class C player had tried this, I would probably give it a question mark. But Nakamura's got a good idea here, is that h6 does hold the g5 square. And the main drawback being that, again, as black loses tempo, because eventually later, in order to get his counterplay going, he's got to push his kingside pawns forward. White continues on f3, f4, bishop a3, knight g6. And again, you can see the basic strategy taking place. White's playing again for queenside play. He's trying to open lines as quickly as possible on the king side, while rather on the queen side, while black will be playing on the king side. And so this is an important part, an integral part of the strategy of this position. And as Nakamura even said, there's a nice chess-based video. I hope you can catch it. Sometimes they tend to delete those things very shortly after they put them up. But if you can capture that or watch that while it's still available on the chess-based website, there'll be a link to that video on my webpage. But anyway, there's a video, a very long video, where Nakamura analyzes this game, and you hear him basically thinking out loud, and he gives some chess variations, and there's someone else, I don't know who in the background is analyzing. It's an English player, but there's actually a couple of players that are asking questions. But anyway, it's a very good video, and you definitely should watch that. I think it's a fantastic video, and like I said, I will post the link for that video on my webpage, and I've already made the webpage for this chess game. This is just a video for that game. Anyway, continue on with the game. Basically, now what's going to happen is that white's going to continue on with his queenside counterplay, just basically trying to rip open lines and create weaknesses and crash through on the queen side, while black's going to pretty much, be marching his kingside pawns forward. And as I said, alluded to earlier, Nakamura admitted in the video, it's probably easier to play black than it is white here. In other words, black's idea is pretty much he's got to get something going on the king side, and it's up to white to figure out the exact refutation of black's play. And Nakamura pretty much said that in the video on the chess-based website. Anyway, white b5, d takes c5, bishop takes c5, rook f7, a5, h5, b6, g4. Black has to get something going on the king side. g4 is pretty much as necessary. Knight b5, c takes b6, a takes b6. And now I think probably a6 is 100% forced here, and the engines confirm that. Black basically is going to just try to get something going here. He plays g3. That's a tricky little move. And, I've played the King's Indian myself in tournaments. And then one of the main ideas is that if white's sloppy or, doesn't watch what he's doing, he plays one inaccurate move, black might play a move like knight takes e4, d takes e4, queen h4, and then all of a sudden, and if white pushes his pawn on h3, black will sack bishop takes h3, and white will be in deep trouble. I mean, he's got to be very careful that something exactly like that doesn't happen. So the idea of g3 there is to immediately crack open, white's position and get something going on the king side. But in this position, after a takes b6, the computers do agree that the move a6 here, a7, 21, ... a6 is pretty much forced here. Again, Nakamura plays something. He's basically just looking for counterplay, so he plays g3. Now here, in this position, I think this is exactly where Anand begins to go wrong. Anand can simply play b takes a7 here, and Ribka and Fritz 12 and Houdini 1.5 all confirm that that's probably the best move for white, is simply play b takes a7. However, Anand, another typical, and you have to understand too that there's been a lot of games played, literally thousands of games played in the King's Indian, and many of the strategies and the ways to handle certain positions have already been worked out. Anand, he responds in a typical fashion. Very oftentimes, white hides his king and puts his king in the corner because that's already been worked out. That's one of the safer things to do here. And so his move is probably the second or third best. But again, the engines already say b takes a7 should be winning here for white, but Anand puts his king in the corner here. And, now Nakamura, he plays bishop to f8. And that's pretty much forced there. White cannot be allowed to dominate the d6 square. White plays d6, a6, knight c7, rook b8. Now, right about here, it would be easy to look at this position and just assume that, black is completely lost. In fact, if you fire up Chess Engine, that's exactly what the Chess Engines show, is that, white is winning by a large margin. But, another thing, like Nakamura said in the video, it's one thing to have an engine that says, whatever valuation, but it's another thing to find the exact winning line over the board. And that's not so easy for, white to do. And apparently Anand, even though he's world champion, he was unable to find the best winning line here for white. Knight a5. And now white has the threat here of bishop c4 pinning this rook to the king. So black hides his king in the corner. And now bishop c4. And this position here is just, if you fire up any chess engine, It doesn't matter which one you choose. Any halfway decent chess engine, from Crafty to Houdini to Fritz, it will simply tell you that, white is winning here by an overwhelming margin, even though black, no material has yet changed hands. I mean, basically the idea is that white's just totally crashed through on the queen side, and black hasn't even got his king side counterplay going. So anyway, rook g7. Now here is Anand begins to badly go wrong. Simply rook a2, which is a good defensive move. It defends the king position laterally and also activates this rook, and that would be a tremendous move for white, and apparently the correct move according to Fritz 12, and I believe Houdini also chooses that move. Again, as I pointed out earlier, there's this possibility of a sacrifice on h3 if this knight moves and the black queen gets to h4. If this pawn moves up, this bishop sacrifices on h3. Because of that mechanical tactical device, Anand chooses here to go ahead and dump force black to get rid of his light squared bishop. So he plays knight e6, but again, rook a2 was a much better move. And black has to capture there, otherwise he's losing the exchange. Takes, and now g takes h2. That move's correct on principle. Again, black has to open lines. He's got to get his kingside counterplay rolling sooner or later, otherwise he's going to be completely busted. And now Anand actually makes a mistake. He actually makes the first real big inaccuracy or really bad move of the game, and he plays knight c4. I believe that the correct move here in this position would have been simply to play bishop h3, and now that bishop is totally blocking off the black's kingside attack, and also helps defend the white king here. It helps defend the g2 square, and this rook can come to a2, the king can capture the pawn, and then white can just pretty much continue on. I mean, black's almost paralyzed. If his kingside play rather gets totally stymied, then black's going to be just lost, because white has got this passed pawn over here and will probably continue forward and even win more material over here on the queen side. Black's just totally tied up hand and foot. But anyway, in this position, rather than playing bishop h3, Anand plays knight c4, and that was a terrible mistake, basically showing that white's losing track of the position and has basically begun to drift or not play the best moves. And now Nakamura plays a very alert tactical move. He goes queen e8. This is not surprising. I mean, Nakamura has a very good reputation as a tactician, and someone like Nakamura is just not going to miss a chance like that, as long as he's not just desperately short of time. Nakamura wasn't going to miss a chance to play a move like this and get right back in the game. And now the position is, if you analyze this with a chess engine, you're going to see that the position is pretty much dead level. And white plays bishop to d5. That's another bad move. I don't know why Anand played that. Again, he doesn't seem to understand these positions. A lot of times when you win the light squared bishop, for the knight, that bishop belongs over here on h3 just because it helps slow down black's counterplay and also protect the white king. But Anand, for whatever reason, doesn't ever even find that move here. And now black plays h4, and all of a sudden the tables have turned. Instead of black being in trouble, white's the one who's in trouble, and he's basically got to come up with an accurate defense and pretty much save his king. And now I'm going to go ahead and cut this off here. That was black's 30th move. We'll pick up the game and finish the game in part 2 of this video with white's 31st move. And I just want to let you know that first of all, I wanted to ask you that if you've enjoyed my videos and you enjoy my web pages at all, please be sure to go to my website and donate via PayPal. You can also do that just simply to my email through PayPal. If you want to go to the PayPal account, my email is lifemasteraj@yahoo.com. And the other thing I wanted to do was to thank you for watching my videos, and also be sure to catch part 2 of this video and check out the webpage. The webpage, there will be a link for the webpage in the section of the video where it says, just below the video on the YouTube channel where it says show more. If you click on that, I will put the link for my webpage when this is posted on the YouTube channel. And thank you for watching. Have a good day, and be sure to catch part 2 of this video.